The world is not ready for what is about to happen. As we welcome you on a Monday night, we are poolside. Welcome to a special edition of the Hardwood Report. Tonight, we're not in the studio, we're not at a desk, we're not even inside a building. We're poolside because, quite frankly, this game is too big for four walls. Somewhere tonight is the New York Knicks, who are 2 wins away from ending a championship drought older than most of the people watching this broadcast. For generations, Madison Square concerts, presidential appearances, political conventions, and some of the most iconic moments in sports history. Yet for all of its prestige, all of its mythology, all of its legends, one thing has remained conspicuously absent for more than half a century. It was still going on, and Madison Square Garden was located in a completely different building. Entire generations of New Yorkers have spent their lives hearing stories about championships they were not old enough to witness. Since then, there have been moments: Willis Reed limping through the tunnel, Walt Frazier dazzling under the bright lights, Patrick Ewing carrying the hopes of a city, the bruising battles of the 90s, the world. But every chapter ended the same way. Close, not quite. Maybe Carmelo could do it. Maybe next year. Until now, because tonight feels different. The NBA Finals return to Madison Square Garden for the first time in a generation, and the New York Knicks arrive home holding a 2-0 lead over the San Antonio Spurs. Just 2 victories away, 2 wins from ending one of the longest championship droughts. Fans have been lining up outside the Garden for hours. Every restaurant, every sports bar, every street corner conversation has...
I mean, we just seen the New York Knicks go to the Spurs arena and take them down. Some people may say, well, Wemby took responsibility there. It wasn't his game. He wasn't playing great. There were some other issues. Stephon Castle injured himself a little bit. Dylan Harper even injured himself a little bit. But was that the reason why the Spurs lost? I don't think so. The Shaolin mentality that we're going to continue to reference, it seemed not to be there, especially in the closing minutes of those games that the Spurs played. And, people also will say, well, it was just unlucky that Wemby didn't make the game-winning shot. I don't think the Spurs want to draw it up to this is going to come down to the last punch. No. I think the Spurs really want to draw it up that we got to win this game by 5 or more points because the New York Knicks are just going to stick with us. The only way the Spurs can stop the Knicks from sticking with them is to play enough defense to the point that the series will continue to be neck and neck unless someone on the Spurs just balls out and for some reason that stifles the Knicks and they're not able to keep up the pace, so we'll just see what happens in this game 3, but I think the New York Knicks got this at home.
One would certainly hope. Inside the arena, the stars are out. Patrick Ewing is here. Jeremy Lin is here. Spike Lee is here. Ben Stiller, Timothy Chalamet, your usual suspects, and political royalty. Zoran Mondami, the mayor of New York City, is in the building, and Mr. 47 himself, the President Donald J. Trump, is also here. Former Knicks from every era have made the pilgrimage back to the building that helped define their careers. I saw Carmelo Anthony courtside. For one night, the center of the basketball universe once again belongs to New York City, but Benjamin, standing in their way is a team that doesn't seem interested in becoming part of someone else's fairy tale. The San Antonio Spurs have spent most of this season looking like the NBA's next great dynasty, led by extraordinary Victor Wembanyama, the most unique talent basketball has seen in a generation. The Spurs know exactly what's at stake tonight. This is not a must-win game, but it's bigger than that, because nobody wants to go home trailing 3 games to none in the NBA Finals. Wembanyama has been brilliant. De'Aaron Fox has delivered. The Spurs have pushed New York to the limit twice, yet here they stand searching for answers against a Knicks team that has turned pressure into fuel to elevate the Garden tonight.
It still has to be Wemby coming with that Shaolin mentality because he is the number 1 guy. But then you look to Stephon Castle, number 2. You look at the facilitator scorer role that we saw him play with the Sacramento Kings last year. So I really hope that all these 3 can put that game together to make it happen because, again, otherwise, we've seen them relying on Harper off the bench playing big minutes. He's not playing 15 minutes off the bench. He's playing 30 plus off the bench, and this is a rookie. This is not Harper Sr. This is Dylan Harper, the young man that's proven himself to be a threat off the bench, and that's basically their biggest threat that they have off the bench, other than Luke Cornett being able to play defense, which is nice. You know, we've seen only a little bit of Harrison Barnes here and there. We've seen only a little bit of the other guys, Carter Bryant here and there, you know, but at the same time, I'd like to just give a shout out again to Champagny. He still looks very good. And then Vassell also looks very good as well. Both of them are very athletic and able to knock down those 3-point shots. So that's incredibly important for this Spurs team, because they cannot only rely on Wemby, Castle, and also Fox to win this series. They need everyone. They need Johnson as well. They need the rookies like I spoke about. They need Cornette. They got to have some people coming in, taking those minutes when the starters are resting, to keep that energy lightning quick on the court, because that's what Coach wants to play with, lightning quick energy. They don't want to slow down to this New York Knicks team. They want to be blowing them away. So I hope that the Spurs can figure that out. But again, it's going to be very hard, ladies and gentlemen, in a hostile environment.
No doubt, Jalen Brunson has become the closer. Karl Anthony Towns has become the force. Mikal Bridges has become the glue. And this entire Knicks roster has become something New York fans have spent decades waiting to see. Why does this team feel like it's the team?
Man, I mean, this team is so interesting, because you look at them on paper maybe and you say, Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson, I mean, those guys maybe aren't that big compared to the starters that you see on the Spurs. Fox looks like he should be able to maybe play a little bit more dominantly when it comes to De'Aaron Fox on the offensive end. De'Aaron Fox being able to run downhill, get those great jump shots. And then you see Josh Hart. He's not exactly a scorer. We know he can play defense, but you think Castle would just be able to jump all over him, whether it's down low or making jump shots. But really, those two guys play great. The New York Knicks players, the Villanova brothers, even Bridges.
Yeah.
You know, the New York Knicks, just, it doesn't matter what you think on paper about, oh, this matchup favors the Spurs in this way. We haven't seen any of that from the starting lineup all the way to the bench. The New York Knicks players can play. Even Jose Alvarado at 5 foot, whatever he is. But we'll call him 6 foot to be very generous, you know. So, man, I mean, the New York Knicks team, they're physical, and they're too physical. That's what they would say, Jay, because Castle doesn't mind playing off of contact. Champagny and Vassell. So you ask that starting lineup, how are they able to dominate you? Josh Hart off the glass, taking rebounds from 7-footers. Jalen Brunson being able to drive down the gut no matter what, you know, and you got especially Mikal Bridges and Anunoby. They just look physically dominant. And then you have Catman shutting off Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Karl Anthony Towns has been able to stop Wemby. I don't know. In comparison to some of the other great centers that have played defense against Wemby this series, Cat looks like he might be number 2 or number 3, you know, maybe number 1
right, yeah,
defensively against Victor Wembanyama. So that is not something that I predicted, but shouts out to Karl Anthony Towns for making that happen. You know, we'll look at this game and see, will the Spurs be able to be physical enough? But then again, there's a head game part where I'm being physical in the opponent's arena. Is that going to get us in foul trouble, and is that strategy not going to work? You could argue, well, they might as well try it, because the New York Knicks were physical against the Spurs, and they were not getting fouls called on them in San Antonio. So I would expect the Spurs to come out and play like it's 1990 and see if that 90s ball defense will work, and how long the refs will go with that in this NBA Finals.
The Knicks are a team that genuinely believe its time has arrived. History, however, doesn't care about belief. History waits. It waits for defining moments. It waits for heroes. It waits for heartbreaks. And tonight, inside the world's most famous arena, another chapter is ready to be written. The Spurs are fighting for survival. The Knicks are chasing immortality. The Garden is shaking. The city is holding its breath. And we are delighted to have you with us for what promises to be one unforgettable night. Game 3 of the NBA Finals, the San Antonio Spurs, the New York Knicks, Madison Square Garden, and a city that has waited far longer than it ever imagined Welcome to the Hardwood Report. Ryder Bullock alongside Benjamin Zion. Tip-off coming your way 5:30 Eastern Time on ABC. History. You're going to hear that word a lot, and I don't think anything can be as well. There's 3 historic things, and you can rank them at home how you want. But first off, I think we got to talk about 13-0. The Knicks are 13-0 right now, postseason. Historic. Are we? What do we think?
I mean, it sounds like a slam dunk or a cannonball in the pool, This is a team, if they're in a series against the Boston Celtics, hypothetically, that's what maybe some of us were thinking, they're just going to be dominated, Brown looks so good, maybe Tatum will come back healthy. The rest of this team is firing on all cylinders. You even have Peyton Pritchard shooting lights out, whatever. I think that's what a lot of people believe the playoff matchup could have been, and the Celtics would just dominate, or whatever other team came in, Philly with Edgecombe and Maxey. There's no way this team can put together multiple wins in a row. Maybe they can against the Hawks that haven't established themselves yet, and we saw that that's what they were able to do.
At the Garden and said, okay, we might buckle up here. This is going to be pretty
Idiots
competitive.
Talking about overtime. I mean,
Right.
geez. So the New York Knicks could prove all the naysayers wrong, and that's exactly. This is the team that is going to go down in the record books as one of those underrated teams that maybe they're going to have like a round 1 in the playoffs that looks good, and then they're going to get smoked in round 2. No, they went all the way, 13-0. And I say that dominance is not only led by Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, but just Josh Hart being an animal. The great addition of OG Anunoby, Bridges being such a great shooter, and then off the bench, Mitchell Robinson is a force to be reckoned with. They got Jose Alvarado, who's a great ball handler, great initiator for them off the bench. And lest we forget, the Landry Shamitz that can just shoot the lights out. Yeah. This guy's a laser. And, even though he didn't play the last game, but Jordan Clarkson can also be a laser. Right. Yeah. So maybe we'll see him.
Sparks.
And the last person to never forget is actually McBride. McBride is essentially the point guard off the bench, and Jose Alvarado is just kind of this new player off the bench to be able to facilitate the ball so McBride can get his shot off more and he doesn't have to focus solely on being a point guard. So we've seen a really well put together New York Knicks team, and I'm very happy with what they've been able to do with this team. It is probably, I think one of the, how can I put this without sounding I don't want to upset any New York Knicks fans. They are the least, they're like the most unassuming Knicks team to go all the way.
Okay,
maybe
that makes sense.
If anybody wants to argue with me, you could talk about some of those '90s Knicks teams.
But they didn't. I mean, they closest they got was 90, 94. Ewing took them to 7.
Right.
He was not up 2-0.
Right.
So they've already, maybe you could make the argument they've already gone further than any team has in.
But was the Ewing team unassuming in comparison to this current New York Knicks team?
Well, that could be the argument. Okay, that's historic.
Mm-hmm.
47's in the building. Trump, I believe, will be in a suite tonight.
Yes.
From what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
ESPN's Sean Sharania has said that security is off the chart, off the chain. He dropped his iPod case, and Secret Service jumped on him.
Yep.
And I don't know if he ever got his iPod case back or not, but anyway, NBA
Sorry
players.
about that, Shams.
NBA players have played in front of Spike Lee. They've played in front of Timothy Chalamet, Tracy Morgan, Steve Shriffa, Ben Stiller.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the Laker days when Jack Nicklaus used to play. So the celebrities is one thing.
Yep.
Now we've got the leader of the free world here.
Yeah.
What would be going through a lot of the players? They kind of, when asked the question, they kind of shifted and talked about just playing for the fans. We don't care who's in the building. We just want to play the best basketball. But you gotta kind of, do you take a moment just to go, the President of the United States is here?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty amazing. I know Stephen A. Smith was critical today about Mr. President being in there, the 47 man, but I'll put it this way, in my humble opinion, I think that sports is beyond politics.
Yes.
A lot of people say, don't mix politics and sports, but sports just goes beyond politics.
Yes.
New York City is that melting pot where it doesn't matter what
And
your
he's
political.
a New Yorker.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't mean to interrupt you.
President
there,
Trump
but,
is a New Yorker, and again, with sports going beyond politics, we have a scenario that works like this. It doesn't matter what your politics are. It doesn't matter what your creed, ethnicity is. Basketball is a game for everyone. It can be something that pulls people together from different cultures. It can be a point where if we can't have a conversation about something, maybe it's politics, we can come together when it comes to the sport of basketball. So that's one thing that we want to see, basketball bringing people together from all sorts of backgrounds. And I hope that's what it brings today. It's going to be something for New York to celebrate all together. Again, no matter your background, if this team can win, and I believe they will pull it off in New York City. Game 3 should be theirs. Game 4 should be theirs.
Wow.
As long as they're able to keep up the
Okay.
dominance.
Wow.
I mean, I'm
Silver
not saying this
caps,
for
here
you,
we
New York.
come.
Yeah, I'm not saying this for New York Knicks fans. I'm not saying this for Stephen A. Smith. It's just I got a feeling right now,
Yeah.
and we'll see if my gut feeling is right here.
Okay, so we're going to how electric as we look ahead to Wednesday night.
Mhm.
I know the Garden's going to be loud.
Mhm.
This place is kind of
The pool's
popping.
getting loud, yeah.
The pool's getting loud, but that crowded there on their city.
Shouts out Silver Tap. So I've seen the videos online. I mean, that place can get pretty wild, It's got a huge atmosphere there where people are very passionate about their New York Knicks. So I'm excited to see what it's like to step in, to talk to some people about what their thoughts were coming into the season and what their thoughts are now with this team showing up and proving the naysayers wrong. And again, I'm not a New York Knicks fan because I'm a naysayer. I'm a New York Knicks believer.
There we go.
I'm not a fan. Sorry. I'm a believer right now because you guys dominated in San Antonio. If you can dominate in San Antonio, you can do it in New York. That's my thoughts.
Absolutely.
And just to add, by the way, hopefully, shouts out to Ariana and Jasmine.
Okay.
Maybe we can get a Mandami, little
maybe.
interview today. So if that happens, we'll be sure to post so you guys can jump in. But I'm gonna shoot her a text and see if we can make that happen.
I gotta tell this story real quick. New York City is I wouldn't say chaotic right now, but it's a mess. And I'm not talking about a climate. I'm just talking about you're at 37th right now, which I think now right now at this time, unless you're not a ticket holder, I don't think you're allowed even on 37th Street. But New York City, and she said she kept getting stopped about every 5 feet. And she was like, is this wild? Everybody wanted to take a picture. And she realized who she was standing next to. She was standing in front next to Jeremy Lin, who is returning to the Garden for the first time in 15 years. We'll have more on that story in a moment. But first, the basketball story is already historic. New York returns home, holding a 2-0 series lead over the San Antonio Spurs after surviving a dramatic one-point victory in Game 2. The Knicks have now won 13 consecutive playoff games and stand just 2 victories away from their first NBA championship since 1973. But tonight, the story extends well beyond the court. For the first time in NBA Finals history, a sitting president of the United States is expected to attend a Finals game. Security around Madison Square Garden resembles New Year's Eve in Times Square, with multiple checkpoints, extensive screening procedures, and fans being encouraged to arrive hours before tip-off. The traditional watch party outside the Garden has been relocated to Bryant Park due to the security perimeter surrounding the area. Inside the Garden, however, the focus for the Knicks remains unchanged. Jalen Brunson continues to lead one of the most resilient teams in basketball. Karl-Anthony Towns, you could make an argument that he could be your vote for Finals MVP, and he was electric in Game 2, while New York's defense has repeatedly found answers in the biggest moments of the series. Across the league, Oklahoma City Thunder general manager Sam Presti spent much of today defending 2 cornerstone players following the Thunder's Western Conference Finals loss to San Antonio. Presti reaffirmed the organization's commitment to Chet Holmgren despite his difficult series against the Spurs, and passionately defended 2-time MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander against criticism regarding his foul drawing ability, saying the star guard is often battling a 6th defender in social media. Meanwhile, the offseason carousel has already begun. The Atlanta Hawks rewarded head coach Quinn Snyder with a multiple-year extension after a season that saw Atlanta become the only team to defeat New York during this playoff run. And in Philadelphia, new basketball operations president Mike Gansey took the podium and delivered an honest assessment of the Philadelphia 76ers, acknowledging the franchise is not currently a championship caliber team while searching for a path forward around veteran Joel Embiid and Paul George. That's what's trending in the NBA.
Can we talk about that last one?
Go for it.
Oh, man. Okay.
That was. We'll start there.
Yeah.
Not a championship caliber team. Do you like that statement?
It's so tough because, okay, the brutal honesty, right? But Cleveland Cavaliers fans, are you happy with that gentleman, that came to this team that brought James Harden over and it kind of just didn't work out, So I don't understand this hire for Philly. I mean, again, I don't know the gentleman. I don't know his basketball prowess like that. But you just had a Cleveland Cavaliers team that risked it all, in my opinion, lost it all, and then you bring him over to Philly, and he's the one telling you that you guys aren't a championship caliber team. I mean, that's a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs to me personally, but I wish Philly fans the best. I wish Cleveland fans the best. Maybe Gilbert will get someone better in there. We're talking about the owner, Mr. Gilbert. Shouts out Mr. Gilbert. Not related.
Okay.
But yeah, who knows, man? I mean, what do you think about this?
It's a bold statement. It's a bold statement, and I don't want to. You can't ever pick. I don't want to ever shift the blame on one person, okay?
Right.
But the 76ers at the end of the season had a lot of problems, and it was their own doing, okay? I mean,
Paul George,
the suspension, okay? And again, will he play, won't he play in Joel Embiid?
Mm-hmm.
So you have two big guys who aren't really doing you any favors.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to go all in, because I think you could, Tyrese Maxey's ready to take the wheels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Edgecombe's looking good,
VJ Edgecombe, any other year, VJ Edgecombe's rookie of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. But on the flip side, you got to have a 5-man squad. I'm not going all in on those two.
Yeah, neither am I, and we know that Joel Embiid, even though we're trying to trust his process, the process has shown us that injury, then you come back for a day, then you're injured for a while, you come back for a couple of days, and then, so that's so tough to, attract stars to play with that sort of guy, unless maybe somehow the Spurs are able to get a center that wants to be that guy that's, okay, I know Joel's going to be injured, so I'm going to get a lot of time to play off the bench and then become a starter when Joel is actually hurt. So maybe that's the direction the 76ers go in. I mean, your thoughts?
No, I could definitely see that, and I don't know their vision. I don't know their rebrand and build. Maybe you owe it to Joel Embiid to let him finish his tenure as a Sixer, and George, you could make an argument for that too. So maybe you owe it to them. Okay, boom, that's fine. I don't see him there 5 years down the line.
Yeah. I mean, I think you owe it maybe to Joel, but not to Paul George.
But where does he go?
That's another question.
Because I'm not taking him.
I mean, maybe the Clippers would be crazy enough to take him, honestly, because we've seen the Clippers do very crazy things. Yeah. And he is I believe he's a Compton guy. Someone correct me. Yeah. He's from SoCal, Paul George. No, I think he's in the Valley. Whatever. Someone will correct me, but he might come back to SoCal, possibly. Otherwise, I think it's going to be one of those teams that is, kind of those fledgling 500 teams that might go for Paul George. Try to maybe get him on a veterans minimum, or a 10 million, maybe something like that. But with the way that Paul George has taken his career lately, I'm not sure that a big box office team is going to put that money down for him.
Right. I don't see the Bucks giving up Giannis.
Yeah. Even though there's, if we could listen to Lakers Nation, they've been talking about, and I'm talking about the YouTube channel Lakers Nation, blanking on the gentleman's name that does Lakers Nation. I'll give you credit when I remember your name. I'll actually pull it up as I talk. But there's talks about, what do we do with Reeves? Do we actually look at Giannis because we're not willing to actually give Reeves that max that he allegedly wants? So I know our gentleman with Lakers Nation is continuing to, pump out more YouTube videos on that, and I'm going to give you your credit right now, sir. His name is, and it's so bad that Trevor Lane.
There it is.
Shouts out Trevor Lane.
Yeah.
So check out Trevor Lane on Lakers Nation. And he's going to be the guy that gives you all that interesting Lakers news about, is Giannis coming to LA, or is Austin staying on the Supermax, or are we negotiating that Supermax? Because we would love to have Austin and Luka, but then, what does LeBron do? What is his market out there as well? I'm sure that he actually has a big market. There's rumors that Golden State would love to have him actually.
Yeah.
But would LeBron do join his banana boat brother, Chef Curry, in Golden State? Or would maybe he somehow try to go to Cleveland? But I mean, I honestly think in LeBron's mind, he probably doesn't want to go to Cleveland if it's going to be a train wreck.
Yeah.
And I say if because we don't know what's going to happen with this team. The future of, Dennis Schroeder,
Right.
James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, I know they're trying to keep a hold of Mobley. But otherwise, the rest of the pieces could move around, and this could be a drastically different team, especially now that the gentleman that we just spoke of went over to the Philly, so
Yeah.
switching jobs.
Let's talk about the coaching carousel for a moment. Atlanta keeping Quinn Snyder, and you like that?
I actually do like it. I think the Atlanta Hawks surprised people in putting together a roster mid-season that actually did work for a while. I was a little bit shocked when they got rid of Porzingis, and it's not just because he has the health problem that he's battling. I just didn't understand the trade and, how they're going to put all these pieces together. You have basically an established team that wasn't horrible, but I didn't know why they, partially blew it up. They got rid of the players they did to bring in a couple other guys like a Kuminga, and I didn't see how it's going to work, all these guys, Kuminga and Buddy Hield, but they actually showed throughout the season that they could plug and play anyone, and it looked good. So I'm giving them all the credit, the front office, the coaching staff, for making that Atlanta Hawks team work. They struggled with the physicality and the scoring of the New York Knicks, and just to be frank, they didn't have the experience outside of Nikhil and a couple other guys. So we'll see what this Atlanta Hawks team becomes. I feel like they're going to try to keep a lot of the core of this team. There may be some guys that look for, a little bit bigger contracts elsewhere, but if I'm an Atlanta Hawks fan and this team comes back the way it has been before, we're talking about this current season, I should say, I wouldn't be upset with what they have. I think maybe the only thing that they might want to look into is possibly a big. Not to say that Okongwu is not a good player. He's undersized, of course. And then off the bench, they do got other guys that can play that center role. But do they want an established center for any reason? Or any more established, maybe guard, forward, veterans? I think they like what they have with the young thing going on, along with McCollum's still there.
I think so.
Yeah, I think he's still under contract. Again, someone will correct us if we're wrong. And I think this Hawks team has some promise.
Last team to beat the Knicks were the Atlanta Hawks, and one team that would like to be in the NBA Finals beating the New York Knicks are the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
Not here, you could make the argument, because Chet Holmgren only attempted one shot in the second half of Game 7.
Yeah.
Not your best moment.
Oof.
But Presti, giving him credit,
Mm-hmm.
not focusing on one error, but the longevity of this run.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
They got a great team. They got an absolutely great team. And what does it take to get a team back into the playoffs and understanding that, hey, we can run this back and we can make it happen next year? That's beyond me because I'm not a coach, but I'm tempted to say that the Thunder could run it back and go win a championship.
So they're coming back.
Yeah, I would like to say
Okay.
that they can and they will. It's just, are all the players cool with each other? Is everything fine there? And I'm not saying I know anything. I'm not saying I heard any rumors
Right.
about discontent between the team. But as long as they come together and be like, yeah, we can run it back. I know I could do this. When Williams is healthy, we're just going to kill people,
Right.
hypothetically.
Yeah.
We're going to roast them, I should say. Williams being a starter there, being able to make those shots, play defense, 3-and-D and beyond, he's a huge value add to that team. And then we think of some of the other guys that, could be playing as well on a higher level. I don't want to say he didn't, but McCain came in late.
Well, he came in late. He was traded mid-season, but he fell
Plug and
right
play?
into place.
Yeah, so maybe they can figure out how to further get him involved as well. And also AJ Mitchell looks great. I mean, the only guy that kind of fell out of the rotation a little bit, and maybe his future is in question, is Lugens Dort.
Yeah.
Trevor Lane spoke about, he has a video on Lakers Nation. Are maybe the Lakers interested in Dort? And I'll just say personally, as a Lakers fan, it's interesting to have a 3-and-D guard, but Dort is not always the 3 guy. He's sometimes just all D. And that's kind of like the Josh Hart gamble as well.
Yeah.
Is he going to score tonight, or is it only defense? So pick your poison. Shouts out to the fan that said I was wearing my necklace backwards. I fixed that midstream.
Yeah. Well, that's what's trending in the NBA, and tonight it's definitely going to be trending as Jalen Brunson walks onto the floor at Madison Square Garden. It's worth remembering just how unlikely this moment really is. The captain of the New York Knicks, the face of the franchise, Captain Clutch himself, is 2 wins away from delivering a championship to a city that has been waiting more than half a century. And yet, not that long ago, people questioned whether Jalen Brunson could even be a starting point guard in the NBA. He was too short, not athletic enough, not explosive enough. Even after winning 2 national championships at Villanova and becoming one of the most accomplished college players of his generation, NBA executives looked at him and saw limitations. He slipped into the second round of the draft. Teams convinced themselves that what worked in college wouldn't work in the NBA. But here's what New York has always respected more than measurables: heart, toughness, a little bit of stubbornness. Brunson never tried to be the biggest star in the room. He simply kept showing up and proving people wrong. First at Villanova, then in Dallas, now here in New York, where he has transformed from a free agent signing many can overplay as the unquestioned leader of a finals team. And that's where this story takes an interesting turn. And I will pause right there because I'm going to ask you some questions here.
Yeah, do it.
Jalen Brunson, is it the most historic free agency signing we've seen?
Yeah, it's got to be up there. It was interesting to see what they did there because the New York Knicks threw that team together with Julius Randle and the other supporting cast members that looked to be like they could be a playoff team, and it just didn't really work. And that's where, for me at the time, I wasn't necessarily a believer. I thought, okay, yeah, Jalen Brunson has his hot streaks, just like Julius Randle has their hot streaks, but otherwise they're not able to really further get a team integrated. I mean, I know it's great to have a point guard in Jalen Brunson who can pass, but otherwise if you have a New York Knicks team that can't shoot outside of, Julius Randle getting hot here and there, and then DiVincenzo, doing his best, it was just a lacking team. So I thought it was going to get blown up. I had no idea if Jalen Brunson was going to stay, and I just, honestly, I was a fan of the hustle and heart that Jalen Brunson had, but I thought, is he an all-star caliber character, or is he just one of those guys that gets hot? I'm not sure. And now, especially watching Jalen Brunson with this team, I know that he's an all-star caliber player. I know that he's one of the all-time great point guards to be looked at as a guy that, again, was too short, not athletic enough, whatever. He's proved everyone wrong. You don't have to be the guy that jumps through the gym. You don't have to be 6'7" at point guard. You don't have to play, a non-college style, however you want to put it, to be a successful player in this league. Jalen Brunson has made his name by playing the way that he wants to play, and I'm glad that, even after Dallas, he was able to find a home in New York, and that he's really stuck with it. He's not a player that, left to go find a team that was built in a way where he could mesh with them and just play and go win easy per se. You know, he could have maybe accepted a role a couple years ago that he would go to a team that, you know, is maybe a playoff team and come off the bench, whatever, and did his winning that way. But instead, he decided, I'd like to stay as a starter and I want to win in New York, and that's exactly what he's doing.
It is June 8th, 2026. No doubt young kids all across the world are going to watch what Jalen Brunson is going to do tonight. 14 years ago, I was a young kid. I know you were as well. What were you doing February 10th, 2012?
February 10th, 2012, I was, I think I was actually on a cruise ship in, were we in Nice, which is South France? It looks like Nice. Spelled Nice. We were either there or we were in Greece. I went on a month-long cruise with my family rather than doing a bar mitzvah, like a Jewish coming of age.
Gotcha.
Here, we went on a massive cruise.
Very well. Well, I asked that question because 14 years ago, another point guard walked in to Madison Square Garden carrying many of the same doubts. Jeremy Lin wasn't supposed to become a star either. Undrafted, passed over, cut multiple times, sleeping on his brother's couch. Then suddenly in February of 2012, everything changed. For 2 magical weeks, the basketball world belonged to Jeremy Lin. He averaged nearly 25 points and over 9 assists during a 10-game stretch. He lit up the Lakers for 38. He hit a game winner in Toronto, and he became the biggest story in sports, not just basketball. And for Knicks fans, he became something even bigger: hope. At the time, the franchise had spent years searching for an identity. They had stars, they had headlines, they had expectations. What they didn't have was a point guard who made New York believe again. Then came Lin's sanity. Now, here's the part people don't always want to hear. Jeremy Lin didn't bring the Knicks a championship. He didn't spend a decade in New York. His run was brief, but his impact was enormous because what Lin did was reminded everyone what Madison Square Garden could feel like when the city falls in love with a point guard. He reminded New Yorkers that greatness doesn't always arrive packaged the way scouts expect. Sometimes it comes from a second-round pick. Sometimes it comes from an undrafted free agent on a 10-day contract. And sometimes it comes from a player the basketball establishment has overlooked. Sound familiar? Absolutely. That's why Jeremy Lin's return to Madison Square Garden tonight feels significant. For the first time in 14 years, he's back in the building as a fan. Not as a player, not as an opponent, just another Knicks superstar sitting a few rows away from the court watching history unfold. And the history he'll be watching is being written in real time by Jalen Brunson. Different players, different eras, different stories, but connected by the same idea. Both were told they weren't enough. Both were underestimated. Both became symbols of what New York basketball values most. Jeremy Lin provided an unconventional point guard that could capture the city's imagination. Jalen Brunson proved one could carry the city on his shoulders, and that's why Brunson hears MVP chants tonight. That's why he is going to hear that stuff. Another player, though, that you could make an argument's been a little overlooked and was traded from a team, and he's rocking a Jeremy Lin jersey, talking about he is what made me a Knicks fan.
Yep.
What's it got to be? And all these overlooked guys playing basketball, what makes this so special? All of this whole story unfolding here, from Lin to these guys, 14 years, make some sense out of it.
You know, but he was also known to launch up a lot of bricks, and people were moaning and groaning about that a little bit. So, not to compare Baron Davis and Jeremy Lin, but just to look at the nations. You had Karl Anthony Towns, whose mother stopped me, and I'm going to be the best version of myself that I can. Without Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns figuring it out, also had the supporting cast members of Bridges, guys coming from different places to say, you know what, we're ready to rally behind this core, which really is Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony bench, Landry Shamet, you know, Jordan Clarkson, McBride, who's a story in himself, kind of being someone that, just came into the league, we'll see if he pans out to be anything. And of course, he did pan out to be something. He's the one that's basically there just as much as Landry Shamet is for maybe sixth man. And I thought maybe the sixth man will be Jordan Clarkson coming from Utah, being a lights out scorer.
Carl Anthony Towns, I mentioned, rocking the Lynn jersey.
Yep.
Lynn tonight is rocking the Towns jersey. There you go. Jeremy Lin walked so Jalen Brunson could run. And tonight, 14 years later, he'll have the perfect seat to watch the next chapter unfold just under 15 minutes from now. Where are we going? Where are we at? Is that it? That's all she wrote? Oh, okay. The Knicks are back home. Madison Square Garden's going to be absolutely electric tonight. But real quick, I want to. I don't know. Was sitting there watching me, I would feel a certain kind of way. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
In a good
Big
way.
time.
In a good way. I'm not going to get into the purely basketball because the Knicks are back home. Madison's from the building. You got Knicks versus the world tonight. The Spurs know if they lose this game, this series is essentially over. The Knicks know one win to the game.
Kings to the game, you know. Well, it looks like the New York Knicks are going to come in with that Shaolin mentality. You know, Jeremy Lin, Victor Wembanyama wants to channel, and the Spurs need to channel if they're going to survive. But if that's not going to happen, you know, I just see the New York Knicks being that same team. Physical, able to make shots. They're going to keep their mojo going throughout the game. It still could be a game of runs because both teams can get hot, but it seems that every time in the fourth, the New York Knicks are there to make sure that they're in the position to win the game.
Okay. Who wins tonight?
New York.
Okay.
Game 4, New York.
Game 4, well, 3 and 4.
I'm not saying that because I'm going to the bar either.
The Knicks cannot let their young legs fly around. They're dangerous. For New York, it starts with Jalen Brunson. He needs to get out there, dictate that. You can defend Victor Wembanyama perfectly for 22 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Anthony Towns has showed us how to do it.
That's right.
And he was outstanding in game 2. He just has to be physical tonight. One shot and done. No second chances. Key number Tasca, you ask anybody, we're going to go play the effects officials, role players, momentum. I mean, was that a foul? I don't know. I was too busy looking at the president. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. The Garden matters, and when that building gets rolling, it's going to affect everybody. Role players, momentum, everything. The Knicks have gone 30-10 at home for a young Spurs.
And I'll say
for that
this,
crowd.
You know, just to those points, you know, we go to point number 1. We're talking about the New York Knicks cannot let the Spurs run.
Right.
As long as they're able to play physical on the Spurs, they're slowing down. They're not able to penetrate like they were. Their hustle is just not to be matched by the Spurs. So, I mean, by the New York Knicks, excuse me. So that's where the New York Knicks can make sure that the Spurs aren't able to run like gazelles through them, keep the defensive energy up. The only thing I would hate to see, Ryder, is if the refs say, yep, the New York Knicks are obviously way too physical. We just have to start calling fouls. And then we're in this game where it's constant fouls, there's no flow, you know, and then that kind of just ruins the whole atmosphere.
Right. Well, game 2 was very physical. Games for a minute. Thankfully, Uncle Rick was there.
The hand checking is great, and the physical and the touching and all that. But you know, I will say, you know, I don't want to see any of like the kind of more,
we don't need to see NYPD Blue tonight.
I don't want to see any Grayson Allen stuff tonight, is what I'm trying to say.
There we go. He's good not to, okay? The mistake is letting him get 30 while Fox gets 25 and Vassell gets 20. And, oh, yeah, there's this rookie named Dylan Harper that sometimes likes to pop up.
Oh, yeah.
And the Knicks have to make San Antonio's supporting cast feel because they're dramatically better. Matter of fact, you could make the argument the Spurs has outplayed them through 2. But I'm picking them because championship teams win these games. They're healthier, they're deeper, they're playing with tremendous confidence. They've won 13 straight.
Right.
And they've been the tougher team in the closing moments. Knicks won 12, Spurs 105. New York's covers the 2.5. Play of the game, Carl Anthony Towns, I think he's got a big night, over 22.5. think he makes that. He's been a problem for San Antonio all series. He's shooting efficiently. He's forcing double teams. He's playing with the confidence of a player who understands what's at stake. I think Towns has another big night at the Garden. He's my